Welcome to Storytime with Nanny, and today we're going to we're on a roll with these Abeka books, and I do think they have some awesome stories in them. This one is Kind and Brave, and it's by Laurel Hicks, and it's illustrated by Walter Kerr. We're going to start with Goose Goose and Pig Pig, and this is a story by Mabel Gunnop LaRue. One day, Pig Pig went to see Goose Goose. Pig Pig said, "I will come to eat with you, Goose Goose. Get a good dinner. I am hungry. I can eat all day." "I will," said Goose Goose. "I will cook all I have in the house and all I have in the garden." And she did. When Pig Pig came to the table, he upset his cup with his nose. He put his feet on the table. He made a noise with his mouth, and he ate the dinner all up. Goose Goose had nothing. The next day, Goose Goose went to see Pig Pig. Pig Pig saw her come down the road, and he ran and got into bed. When Goose Goose came to the door, Pig Pig said, "I cannot get dinner for you today, Goose Goose. I am sick. I must stay in bed." So Goose Goose went back home. The next day, Goose Goose was eating her dinner. Pig Pig came to the door. He said, "I have come again, Goose Goose, to eat with you." But Goose Goose said, "No, no, Pig Pig, no, no. You were sick when I came to see you. You look sick today. Go back to bed." Pig Pig was cross. He said, "Wee, wee, wee," all the way home. Now, when Goose Goose had Pig Pig for dinner, he had bad table manners, didn't he? And he ate up all the food. But then he didn't want to feed Goose Goose when it was her turn, did he? Wasn't fair or right. But then he wanted to come back and eat again at Goose Goose's house. And she said, "No, no." The next story we're going to read in here is by Laurel Hicks. It's called Sunshine and Rain. One day it rained and rained. Joy liked the rain. She liked to splash in the puddles. She liked to get her boots wet. "The rain is like silver," said Joy. "Look at me splashing in the silver." "I don't want to splash," said Mark. "I want to play in the sun and have some fun." "When will it stop raining, Mother?" "I know," said Joy. "It will stop raining when it's time to stop raining." "Come on, Mark, splash with me in the puddles. Then we can look at some books. The rain is helping the plants to grow." "Oh, all right," said Mark. "I may as well play with you." Joy and Mark splashed in the puddles, and they looked at some books. "This is fun," said Mark. "I like the rain. I like to splash in puddles, and I like to look at books. Thank you, God, for sending the rain. Thank you for helping the plants to grow." Somebody's passing through on their tractor, so it's a little loud right now. We do need the rain, and God does send us the rain to make our plants grow, and we need plants to grow so we can have food to eat. But at first Mark didn't want to have any fun, did he? He just wanted to whine and complain because he couldn't play in the sun. Then he realized, well, with his mom's permission, they could play out in the rain. Sometimes you can if it's like thunder and lightning. You don't need to be out in that. And sometimes it just rains for us, and if our parents say it's okay, we can play in the rain sometimes. This next story is called Ready to Go. Anna Dorothea Cords wrote this. One day, Tom and Randy came running home from school. Tom said, "Mother, Mother, there's no school tomorrow. Why don't we go to Grandmother's house? Please, let us go." Little Jean was in the house. She liked to visit Grandmother. Daddy was afraid they could not go. He said it would be fun, but he was afraid they could not get ready in time. "We must put away our playthings," he said. "We must water the flowers before we go." "But we could help," the boys cried. Tom said, "I will put away the playthings while Randy waters the flowers. It will all be done in no time." How the boys did work. It was fun to watch them. Soon everything was done. Tom put away the playthings. Randy gave the flowers some water. He picked some for Grandmother, too, and Jean helped him. Daddy had gone into the house to get dressed. When Mother came out, she was surprised to see that the work was all done. "Everything is done, Mother," said Tom. "We had fun, too. See the flowers that Jean picked?" Daddy was all dressed up and waiting in the car. "I'm ready to go," he said. "Am I going alone, or is someone going with me?" How Tom laughed at that. Daddy got out and put the flowers into the car. Then he looked the car over. He wanted everything to be right. He put the bags in. He was ready to go. "Where is Mother?" he asked. "She is coming," said Tom. Just then little Jean and Mother came out. Jean had on her new white dress. She looked so pretty. Mother had on her new yellow dress. Tom and Randy were both ready to go, so off they all went to Grandmother's farm. Grandmother came out to hug the children. She was glad to see them. She was so pleased when Tom and Randy gave her the flowers. "Oh, thank you," she said again and again. "What pretty flowers! But how did Mother get ready so soon?" Then she looked at the boys. "I think I know," she said. "I think I know." Grandma had figured out everybody must have helped. I know anytime we were getting ready to go somewhere when the kids were little, they knew I always wanted to come back to a clean house, and even if all the toys were already picked up, maybe something needed to be done. Had the pets been fed, or so there were things to do and chores to do, and I always made them help me, and it helped us get out the door quicker. Instead of them standing there and me doing all the work saying, "Can we go? Can we go?" "We're ready to go." Well, we're not ready unless everything got ready before we left, so that made it easier for me to get out the door when they helped. Let's see, this next story is called Grandmother's Path, and it's by Henry Suzzallo. Grandmother lives next door to Bob and Becky. There is a little path from her house to the children's home. Every day Grandmother goes along this little path to see Bobby and Becky and Baby. This is why they call it Grandmother's Path. One night it snowed. Big snowflakes fell on the tops of the roofs and on the trees. They fell in the yard and on Grandmother's path. When morning came, the whole earth seemed white with snow. Bob woke up early and sat up. Then he jumped out of bed and ran to the window. When he looked out, the happy boy shouted, "It's snowing! It's snowing!" He could hear Mother fixing breakfast. He called out, "Look, Mother, Grandmother's path is all white with snow. She can't come over the path this morning to see us. May I clear it for her?" "Making a path is hard work, but you may try, Bob," said Mother. After breakfast, Bob put on his coat, his scarf, and his earmuffs. Then he put on his boots. He got Father's snow shovel and went to work. "I'll clear the path for Grandmother," he said. Bob cleared the path a little way. Then he stopped to rest. Soon he began working again. "Mother is right," said Bob. "Making a path is hard work." When the milkman came with the milk, he watched Bob for a while. Then the milkman said, "To make a path, my little man, you're working hard today. Little by little, step by step, you'll clear the snow away." "Yes," said Bob, "I'm making a path for Grandmother." Bob went on clearing the path. Soon the paper boy came with Father's newspaper. He watched Bob for a while. Then the paper boy said, "To make a path, my little man, you're working hard today. Little by little, step by step, you'll clear the snow away." "Yes," said Bob, "I'm making a path for Grandmother." Bob went on clearing the path. The mailman came with letters. He watched Bob for a while. Then the mailman said, "To make a path, my little man, you're working hard today. Little by little, step by step, you'll clear the snow away." "Yes," said Bob, "I'm making a path for Grandmother." Bob cleared the path to Grandmother's house. Then he looked up, and there stood Grandmother in the door. Grandmother called out, "Bob, I have made a path for you." "Well, well," said Grandmother, "and a fine path it is. How did you do such a hard job as that?" Then Bob said, "Because I love you, Grandma dear, I worked so hard today. Little by little, step by step, I cleared the snow away." That was a very sweet thing for him to do for his grandmother, wasn't it? Nobody made him. He just wanted to do something sweet for her so she could still come over and visit with everybody. This story is called Why Jimmy Did His Work, and it is written by Clarence R. Stone. Jimmy was picking apples. Father had told him to fill a basket, but Jimmy did not feel like working. "I don't want to pick these old apples," Jimmy said. "I just want to play. I'll go get someone to play with me." He put his basket under the tree and ran to Sandy's house. "Sandy, Sandy," he called, "will you come out and play with me?" But Sandy was helping Mother. She was holding the baby. "After I do my work, I may play," she said. "Don't you have any work to do?" Jimmy would not tell her. He ran back to his house. "I'll get Kitty to play with me," Jimmy said, but Kitty was washing her little kitten. "Oh no," she said, "after I do my work, I may play. Don't you have any work to do?" But Jimmy would not tell her. He ran down the road. "I'll get my dog to play with me," he said. Come, Tip, come and play with me," he called. "Oh no," Tip said, "I must watch these sheep. Would you have me run away from the sheep? After I do my work, I may play. Don't you have any work to do?" But Jimmy would not tell him. He went away. Jimmy came to Old Hen and her baby chicks. "Will you play with me, Old Hen?" Jimmy called. "Sandy and Tip and Kitty are working, but I want to play." Old Hen did not say a word. She was working too fast. How her feet did go! "Cluck, cluck, scratch, scratch," she said to her chicks. Then she made the sand fly. She looked up at Jimmy. "This is the way I work. I do not play. Don't you have any work to do?" Jimmy would not tell her. He went away. Jimmy walked on and came to some pigs. "Oink, oink," called the pigs. "We hear you don't like to work, and we don't like to work. You will not see us work. We like to eat and eat and eat. Playing and eating are better than working." Jimmy was looking at the pigs. He put on his thinking cap. Here is what Jimmy was thinking. Sandy is working. She is helping her mother. Kitty is working. She is washing her kittens. Tip is looking after the sheep. Old Hen is feeding her chicks. The pigs are not working. They just eat and eat. I do not want to be like a pig. Then he said, "Father told me to work, and that's what I'll do." So he ran back to the apple tree and began picking up apples and putting them into the basket. He soon filled the basket with the red apples. "Why, this is fun," said Jimmy. So, what did Jimmy learn? Everybody's got work to do. Hey, you coming up? Well, you can't fit up here. I'll fit you up here, baby. Fluffy. Fluffy tried to jump up here and couldn't make it up here. Yeah, my sweet Fluffy. I think I figured out, by the way, that Itsy is actually a boy and Fluffy is a girl. My daughter helped me figure that out. But they're about maybe 4 months old. You want to help me read? This is a little poem called "Four Ducks on a Pond." 4 ducks on a pond, a grass bank beyond, a blue sky of spring, white clouds on the wing. What a little thing to remember for years, to remember with tears. And that's written by William Allingham. Sometimes I think what he meant by tears is it's when you look back, sometimes things might seem sad because it's no longer that way. And sometimes we have tears of joy. We can look back and be thankful that we had that time and that things were the way they were at that time. Are you saying hello, Fluffy? You know I loves you. Itsy actually spends more time in my lap when I'm outside, wanting to lay across my lap and sleep, actually, when I'm outside. And Fluffy, she loves me, and she'll come and get in my lap, as you can see. It's just not as often as Itsy does. Yeah, I need to turn the page, though. You gonna help me? Let's see, who wrote Dottie and Spotty is the name of our next story. Maybelle Gunnop LaRue. Once upon a time, there were 2 little kittens. Where's Itsy? Last time I checked on Itsy, by the way, he was sleeping under the tulip tree, just being lazy. This is Dottie and Spotty. Once upon a time, there were two little kittens. One was all white with one black spot. Her name was Spotty. One was all black with one white dot, and her name was Dottie. One cold night, Dottie and Spotty sat by the fire. Mother Gray Cat came into the room. She had a mouse. Up jumped Dottie, and up jumped Spotty. "Meow, meow, Mother," said Dottie. "Please give that mouse to me." "No, no, Mother," said Spotty. "I want that mouse." Then Dottie said, "You shall not have that mouse, Spotty. It was my mouse." And Spotty said, "I will have the mouse." "We shall see about that," said Dottie, and Dottie gave Spotty a whack with her paw. Then those two little kittens began to fight. They whacked and they spit, and they scratched and they bit. Soon an old lady ran into the room. She had a broom. She opened the door and she swept Dottie and Spotty right out of the room. It was a cold night. The wind blew and the snow flew. Dottie and Spotty sat down on the door by the door. Oh, how they did cry. After a while the old lady opened the door to shake her tablecloth. Dottie and Spotty crept into the house and under the stove. Mother Gray Cat was there. She said, "Here is the mouse, kittens." "Give it to Dottie," said Spotty. "No, no," said Dottie. "Give it to Spotty." "Now you are good kittens," said Mother Gray Cat. "I will go to the barn and catch another mouse right away." Dottie and Spotty decided that they didn't want to fight, did they? They got punished when they fought. They got put outside and it was cold and they didn't like that. So they decided it was much better to get along. This is a good rule, is what it's called. It says, "Be to others kind and true, as you'd have others be to you." And that is, that doesn't even have an author on it because there's a saying, and this is where they adapted it, I guess, the golden rule, and it is do unto others as you'd have them do unto you, which means you treat people the way you want them to be treated. So if you want people to be nice to you, you be nice to them. John Wesley is who wrote this other poem called "Do Good." "Do all the good you can in all the ways you can to all the people you can as long as ever you can." That's saying to be good to others is what he's saying there too, isn't it? This next story is called "A Brave Dog," and it's written by Clarence R. Stone. "Come on, Ronnie," called Jack to his best friend. "Today will be a fine day to try out the long hill over in the woods." "Think it will snow?" asked Ronnie. "It looks like it." "Oh, no," said Jack, "and we won't stay long. We'll just take a few slides and then come home." It's not far, but Jack was not right this time. It was a long walk to the hill. Before they had made a good track on the hill, a snowflake fell on Ronnie's nose. But the hill was so long and the slide was so fine that the boys could not stop. Then all at once a big storm was upon them. The boys knew it was a bad storm, so they started off for home at once. "It's this way," called Ronnie. "No, it's this way," called Jack. The wind was blowing, the snow was coming down faster and faster. They could not see which way to go. The two boys kept together, but they soon began to be afraid. They knew they could never find their way home in such a storm. Now Rover, Jack's dog, had run on. Soon he came running back, barking loudly. Then he ran off again. He was out of sight very soon. Back he came again, barking more loudly than ever. "I think he wants us to follow him," said Ronnie. Then the boys tried to follow him, but they could not keep up with him for the wind and snow. They stopped. Back came Rover. "Why don't you come?" he seemed to ask. He started off again. "Here, Rover," called Jack, and he quickly took the end of Rover's tail in his hand. "Hang on to my arm," Jack yelled to Ronnie. Rover gave one little bark as if to say good, and on went Rover, Jack, and Ronnie. The boys could hardly see at times, but not once did Rover stop, and not once did Jack let go of Rover's tail, and at last they came to a gate, and then to the house. They were hungry, cold, and tired, but not one bite did they take till Rover had a big dinner in front of the fire. Rover deserved a reward, because it doesn't sound like they'd have made it back safely without Rover's help, does it? Kind of makes me think of a sitcom that used to be on when I was a little girl, and it was in black and white, and it was called Lassie. And my grandparents say that I cried every time it went off because I just loved Lassie, but Lassie was always rescuing people and other animals too. And there are really smart dogs like that out there, and they have an instinct, and they just, though the boys couldn't see how to get back, the dog knew the way, and he got them back safely. And this poem doesn't even have a title actually, but it's by Mary Mapes Dodge. Whenever a snowflake leaves the sky, it turns and turns to say goodbye. Goodbye, dear cloud, so cool and gray, then lightly travels on its way. And that's sweet. Now this story is called Two Dogs, and it's by Catherine T. Bryce. One day, two dogs met on the street. One of them was clean and looked well. His name was Jack. The other dog was not clean, and he was very thin. His name was Jip. Jip said, "You look well and happy." Jack said, "My owner feeds me. He is very kind to me." "Who feeds you?" "My owner feeds me sometimes," said Jip, "but sometimes he forgets. My owner is not good to me. He is cross, and I am afraid of him," said Jip. "That is too bad," said Jack. "Owners should be kind to their dogs." "How clean you are," said Jip. "How do you keep so clean?" Jack said, "My owner washes me and gives me a clean bed to sleep on." Jip said, "My owner does not wash me, and I have no bed. I sleep anywhere I can find a spot. Sometimes I sleep in the house, and sometimes I sleep out in the cold or rain." Jack said, "That's not right. Owners should wash their dogs and give them clean beds. I don't mind working for a child who is kind to me." Just then the dogs heard a boy coming. Jip said, "Wow, here comes a boy. It may be my owner. I wish I could climb a tree to get away from him." Jack said, "Bow wow, here comes a boy. It's my owner. Let's run to meet him." Well, that story's a little sad, isn't it? It even has a scripture here from the Bible, from Proverbs 12:10. It says, "A righteous man regardeth the life of his beast." And yes, God made us and the animals, but he put us in charge of the animals. And that means we're supposed to be good to them. And when we have a pet, we are supposed to keep them out of the rain and the cold. And we're supposed to give them food regularly, not just sometimes. And they do need their baths, and we're supposed to take care of them. If we're blessed to have them, we're supposed to take care of them. This next story is written by Clarence R. Stone, and it's called The Wind and the Duck. And there's two words that we're going to go over, so when I read them in the story, you'll know what we're talking about. The first word is journey, and journey is a trip. So if you go on a trip, you go on a journey. And then the next word is daily, and that means every day. So if you have to brush your teeth daily, you have to eat daily, you sleep, well, at night, but if you do something every day, it's a daily thing. And so here's the wind and the duck. On a very cold day of winter, north wind, you fall over a little bit, it's alright. On a very cold day of winter, North Wind started out on his daily journey. He was blowing over a lake. He saw a lonely duck diving through the few holes left in the ice. The duck was finding fish to eat. "How foolish," blew the North Wind, "to try to win out over me. Why, I have chased every living thing away." As he spoke, North Wind blew so hard that he froze over all the holes. Then the poor little duck had to hunt for a place on shore away from the wind. Pleased with what he had done, the wind blew away for the evening. But the next morning, when the wind arose, he found to his surprise that the duck had found some new holes. As he watched the duck, he saw him push the reeds aside and dive down into the water. Up he came with a big fish in his bill. "This will never do," howled North Wind. "No duck is going to get the better of me." For a whole week the wind blew, harder and colder every day. But each morning when he arose, he found the little duck at his work. Wind or no wind, the little duck was out on the ice, hunting new holes or breaking through the old ones. At last the north wind said to himself, "Well, there is no getting ahead of that duck. He has made up his mind what to do, and no one can stop him. I shall let him alone." I like that story because it makes me think how sometimes things aren't always going the way they're supposed to. But sometimes we just have to prove, even if it's to the universe itself, if it's the right thing, we're going to do it. And that's what we're going to do, even if we have to face obstacles and go through challenges. We're not going to stop. We're going to continue to do the right thing. And I think eventually, one way or the other, if things are fighting against us and we're doing what's right, we're going to make it. That's what I think of when I read that story. And that one is, well, I say a new one. This is one of the ones from my children's books, but when they were little, but it was, I don't remember it being a story I grew up with. This one's called, and I think we may have read, but it's a similar story, but it's short, and I know kids don't mind hearing the same story more than once anyway. It just may be similar to one we've already read, because it is an Aesop fable, and it's called The Ant and the Dove. Fluffy. Once a little ant fell into a brook. She tried and tried to get out, but she could not. The brook carried her along. "Help, help," she cried. A bird was in a tree beside the brook. This bird was called a dove. The dove saw the little ant and felt sorry for her. She picked a leaf and dropped it into the brook. "Here is a leaf, little ant. Climb onto it and you will be safe," he said. The ant climbed on the leaf, and the wind blew it along like a little boat. By and by it came to the shore. The ant crawled off the leaf and up the bank. "Thank you, kind dove," she said. "I hope I can help you some day." One day a hunter came to the woods. He saw the dove sitting in a tree and was going to shoot him. The dove did not see the hunter, but the little ant saw him. She ran to the hunter and bit his foot. This made him jump, and he could not shoot the dove. The dove flew away and was safe. As he flew away, he sang, "Thank you, little ant. You have saved my life." So the dove saved the ant, and in return, somebody might have thought, well, that little bitty ant can't do anything. But as it turned out, the little ant did save the dove's life too, didn't it? And it gives, I like this one. This story also gives a Bible verse called it's in Proverbs 18:24. "A man that hath friends must show himself friendly, and there is a friend that sticketh closer than a brother." And that just says to me we are supposed to be there for one another. That's why God put us here, is to get along and be sweet and be good to one another. Oh, me. Fluffy's helping today. Yeah, you's helping. She is a pretty baby, isn't she? She's very sweet, her and Itsy both. Well, that is all that we have time for today. Let's see, what's today, I believe, is day 26. So we're coming on along. Some months have 30 days and some have 31. So we're getting close to having a month's worth of shows up. So that's pretty good, isn't it? That was what I wanted to get to, at least a month, because I know kids don't mind having the same stories more than once. And this way, if we can get through this week, especially if we do 31, because some months do have 31, you'd have a story for each day of the month if you wanted to. You could just watch a show a day for the whole month, and then start back over if you wanted to. We thank them, don't we, for joining us today. You can tell them to come back another day and watch us again. Are you going to be here? I know you'll be here, but I didn't have any intentions of Fluffy joining me today, but she wanted to come. She's a sweet baby. Well, thank you for joining, and I hope to see you again next time.